Okay. Oh, I need to put some socks on. Bollocks. Pause, 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 pause. I'll shove these on. They're a bit dirty, but you know what? What's a bit of dirt between friends? Do you miss? Hey guys. Hey. How are we doing today? Good morning, welcome back into another episode of Morning Glory, where we chat about whatever the fuck I feel like, okay? And this week it is going to be short and sweet, okay? Not just the episode, potentially, if I can shut up, but the album by the one and only Sabrina Carpenter, okay? As promised, I'm here to do a little deep dive, not as deep as I have been before, because I don't feel like we need to be sat here for 2 hours plus, you know? And also, I will say, this album in general isn't the most subliminal in nature, so it's kind of easier to understand where she's coming from and what she's getting at, you know? But first of all, guys, before we do get in, I've got a bunch of notes, by the way, in front of me, so if you see me reading my notes, then mind your business. But, guys, can we talk about electrolytes? This is going to sound so sponsored, and I don't give a fuck, because it ain't. But I'm really into electrolytes. Oh, I am so into electrolytes at the minute, guys. Like, you get these little powder sachets, you dump them in a bunch of water, and it flavours it deliciously, whilst also hydrating you to filth. Right? Now, I'm pretty sure some of you might have seen that I went live and I tried the Humantra ones. And yeah, fuck her. We're not doing any of that, right? Turns out they're overpriced and don't have as much going on, right? Whereas I've now started using Liquid IV. Now, this once again will sound sponsored because I know that Liquid IV work with a lot of YouTubers. And Liquid IV, if you're listening and if you're hearing this, work with me, please. I'm giving you free promotion here, right? I'd happily chat about you, okay? Guys, Liquid IV is kind of iconic. I've only tried 2 of the 3 flavours just because the third flavour is passion fruit, and that does not sound like my cup of tea. Okay, I'm not a passion fruit girly. Whereas the other 2, strawberry and lemon lime, fuck yeah, right? And I've got to say, the strawberry one is potentially the most delicious thing I've ever tasted in all of my life. If you've ever had Hubba Bubba, strawberry Hubba Bubba, tastes just like that, if not more delicious, okay? And I also will say, they're less expensive, and you only need to have 1 sachet and 1 drink a day, whereas for the amount that you're getting in the Liquid IV ones, you'd have to have 4 of the Humantra ones. So I'm like, that's a scam. See what I did there? It's a scam, right? So Humantra are scamming you all, whereas Liquid IV are actually slaying. So I've been having them every day. So that's what this is. This is a lemon lime one. And generally what I'll do is I'll wake up, have my coffee, and then maybe an hour later I'll have my electrolytes in a big cup like this, and I'll take my vitamins with said water, because then I feel like I'm really doing the Lord's work, you know? But anyway, guys, enough about electrolytes. We're not here to talk about electrolytes, but I had to, because that's what that is, okay? We're here to talk about Short and Sweet, the album, okay? We've had it for just over a week at this point. I've been loving it. Now, we are going to go track by track, and then at the end of this, I will be giving you my ranking, okay? And some overall thoughts about the album in relation to other works from Sabrina, as well as just kind of like encapsulating the whole era, right? So first and foremost, we may as well just crack on in, because I don't want this to be too long. We're going to get on in with, and we're going to start with taste, okay? And I feel like this is kind of the start and kind of like the beginning to this huge love triangle situation that we've somehow found ourselves in, okay? Like I said, I've not got that many notes. I've not delved too deeply into these tracks, but generally we're just going to kind of like skim the surface, and I'm going to tell you kind of like my loose thoughts, okay? First and foremost, the first lyric that kind of was like jarring for me was the whole pin me down and paints pictures or something with his tongue. Are you straights doing that? Are your men pinning you down and licking you? Because she obviously references claiming your territory later in a song. So I wondered, is she into furries? Like, are we animal role playing this bitch? You know, because pinning you down and licking you seems a bit weird. But you know what? maybe it's just a nice lyric, right? It's not to be taken literally. Obviously, this track is kind of like speaking about the idea of when you split up with somebody, obviously they'll go on to then go into new relationships with new people and potentially do similar things that you guys did together with the new person, and they don't know that it's like something they've done before, but you know, like you see them out and about maybe on social media doing all these things that you've done before, and you're like, oh well, he took me there, we did that together, that was our tea, that's my joke, you know. And it does make me think, like, realistically, from the opposite perspective, thinking of it this way is kind of wild. Like the fact that we get into a new relationship with somebody and they've done the whole like potentially in love thing with some other fucker before they get to you. That's kind of scary and daunting to me. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like I want someone with absolutely no relationship experience, because that sounds exhausting, okay? Especially at this point in my life. I need a husband, okay? But to think that like my potential future husband will have like been in love with potentially some other fucker before me. And I understand I've also, had my own relationship, so this does go two ways. But I just think it's a crazy thought to have. And I've never really thought of it from that perspective before, and it makes me a little bit scared. Actually. I also did feel the need to note that obviously she mentions I have been known to share, right? And in my brain, this has to relate to the other sort of love triangle that she did find herself in not too long ago, which was obviously Joshua Bassett, Olivia Rodrigo, that whole situation. Obviously, that was definitely more bitter and definitely more public knowledge, the whole thing. Whereas this, obviously, like we can only allude to who we think these people are about, and I will do. Okay, we'll get there. I don't know why my throat's going all weird all of a sudden. But yeah, why can't guys? Am I croaky? But yeah, so for me, I like that she's able to kind of like put this satire spin on things now with hindsight, because obviously like that was a whole traumatizing experience, and obviously like she did kind of acknowledge that in emails I can't send. So I do like that, like on the very very first track of this album we are kind of like rounding off or like having a little jab at maybe the past era or that situation. At least I do think that's a fun way of starting this album, and obviously moving forward into, I guess, another fucking love triangle situation and another, bullshit experience with another man. Because men are shit and men are trash. And you'll hear that a lot in this, okay? The last thing I also did want to note for this track is I love towards the end the little la 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 la's. And I just think it really gives me like the 50s kind of energy that I feel like a lot of these songs do kind of have, especially, and also aesthetically. I feel like aesthetically, this era is very much given like 50s, whether that be more like beachy or more classy, like, because I feel like the beachy vibes were definitely prevalent in like the Espresso music video, but then like she was kind of giving high tea, classy energy on the cover art. And then obviously Please 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 comes along, and obviously we'll get there soon, but that also definitely has a sort of like 50s la 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 energy, okay? And it really gives, to me, the little la la la's remind me of Love Me Like You by Little Mix. And if you know that song, you'll know that that was very, very 50s, like, sha la 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 woohoo. Like it's very that kind of energy. I'm not sure what the exact terminology for that kind of music is, other than like, in my brain, it links to maybe 40s, 50s music, but I don't really know. I could be wrong. But for me, that's what it gives. So I love that we're already kind of tying in these like 50s kind of elements, because otherwise this song is basically a bop. Okay, and let's quickly just talk about the music video, because obviously like I can't not. Obviously, the Death Becomes Her references are absolutely impeccable. And if you know anything about me, Death Becomes Her is one of my all-time favorite movies, okay? Now, I don't know if Sabrina knows that these are Death Becomes Her references. Like, I don't know if she came up with the ideas or what, because I watched the behind the scenes and she obviously mentioned that, like, kind of in the short and sweet Sabrina Carpenter universe, women just don't die, but yet men do. That's kind of what she said in the behind the scenes. Obviously, like, that's, I think, her just being funny. But I would be intrigued as to whether she actually knows that a lot of the vibes were definitely giving Death Becomes Her, because obviously she hasn't mentioned it. So I do wonder if she actually has seen it, which I hope she has. But who knows? It could just be like the director's idea or something. You know, you never know with these kind of things. But whoever did it, whoever decided that they were going to give us kind of Death Becomes Her in like a teenage 50s kind of sense, period. You did that, okay? All the special effects, the story, Jenna Ortega, the kiss, literally everything about the music video was literally perfect. And I have got to say that about every visual we've got this era. Espresso was perfect. Please, Please, Please was iconic with Barry Keoghan in it. And now 3 for 3 with taste. She really has been delivering visually for this album, and I really appreciate it, because I do think there is art in a music video, and I also do think that music videos can really enhance a listener's experience of the song, right? Because if I didn't love the song already, with that visual, I'm loving the song, you know, but obviously I already loved the song, so the visual just made it even better. But at the same time, a visual can also hinder a song. But not as much, I don't feel like. Like, if a music video is shitty, like, I'll still enjoy the song, you know? But yeah, overall, love taste. What a great start to the album. What a great music video. I just love it. Okay, moving on. Please, please, please. I'm not going to say too much about the singles, because obviously we've had them for a longer time. We all kind of know the tea, okay? I will just say this is iconic, though, right? Down to the music video with Barry, down to once again kind of like this the soft 50s vibes. And I will say it kind of gave me Hopelessly Devoted to You vibes, right? From Grease. Because when I was making these notes, I was listening to the whole album on the train, okay? So I was focused. And I was like, what is this kind of reminding me of? And like, what imagery does come to mind when I see this song? Like, taking away the music video, I was like, what imagery comes to mind? And for me, it was like, I see Sabrina, right? If I was to do like a visual for this, I guess, I see Sabrina obviously very 50s, very Grease kind of aesthetic, okay? I see her like in a mirror, looking at herself in the mirror, mascara running down the face, because, you know, he made the makeup run after she'd done it so nice or whatever, right? And I instantly was like, okay, so it's Hopelessly Devoted to You vibes, right? Funnily enough, Googled it, because I wanted to make sure that Hopelessly Devoted to You was the one that I was thinking of, right, from Greece. Googled it, didn't even put Sabrina Carpenter. Turns out she performed Hopelessly Devoted to You on the Eras tour. So I was like, wait, maybe that was her kind of like hinting, because I'm not sure if this was before Please, Please, Please came out. I think it will have been. I'm not sure if like that was her maybe hinting to kind of like what the sound was going to be for Please, 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 because that would have been so fun. And I loved myself for clocking that before even knowing. So yeah, it's very melodramatic in nature, which I think really works with the lyrics. Definitely, obviously, continuing the 50s kind of sound, but I will say it does start to have like a few like quirky, funky elements with the production. Like there's a good bit of twang to this one, so it's not all soft and swaying. Okay. I do think this was a very, very interesting choice for a single, like especially after Espresso. I feel like there was songs on this album that easily could have been like pop smash hits, second single energy, more than maybe Please, 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 right? I do think it's a great single, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. But I think from a pop perspective, I wouldn't have expected her to choose this one. But I think that's almost why it was so good, because it was very different from Espresso. So I'm glad it was like her being like, look, I know you've all loved Espresso, and obviously Espresso is killing it, and we'll get into that later down the line. But just so you know, the album is going to be more of an eclectic sound, not the exact same. Because there was a lot of people saying, a lot of people that don't know the tea behind Sabrina and doesn't know what she can do. A lot of people saying like, oh, like she's probably just going to give us a whole album of these kind of vibes. You don't, and that shows that you don't know Sabrina at all. Right? The amount of sounds this girlie has dipped into, even just on this album alone and flawlessly, speaks volumes, okay? And I also will say, I think this was the first song, because obviously Taste was fun, but it wasn't as like humorous as we'll get in the album. And I think this was the first track, if we're going track list order, this was the first track where we start to get hints of like the humorous lyrics, right? Obviously, the ceiling fan, love that. The whole staying indoors thing, don't be seeing with me. The way she says motherfucker scratches my brain. Okay, that's probably one of my favorite lines from her. That whole part. And yeah, overall, I think it was such a good second single. And once again, the music video just enhanced my love for it. I will say this one wasn't a instant grab as much as Espresso was, but I still absolutely love it. Okay, moving on. Next track, Good Graces. Good Graces, even. Oh my fucking god. R&B Sabrina, right? Loosely. I'm using that loose. Like, she definitely has been more R&B in the past, but this is R&B Sabrina. Okay? Oh, also, if you haven't noticed, I'm wearing my Mountain Dew Me t-shirt. I did mean to wear this for my Sabrina reaction. If you're interested, it is up on my Patreon. Check it out. But I forgot to wear it for my Sabrina reaction, so I thought I'd wear it for this. And I actually, funnily enough, bought this before Espresso came out, so I didn't realize that like that was going to be a Sabrina vibe, but I'm glad that I own it. But yeah, R&B Sabrina entered the chat with Good Graces. Oh my god, I love this song, guys. Not to gush and gush, but I love this song. She's kind of talking about the way she's able to turn feelings off as much as she catches them, essentially, right? Which I can't do that. Wish I could, because I feel like that would come in handy. But it also gives me unhealthy vibes. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure if that's going to be like her gaslighting herself into thinking that she's able to do that, and then later down the line probably feeling the effects of it, or what. But if she is able to just, you know, switch the feelings off and just be like, almost get the ick for someone, that is talent. Because I can't do that. If I've been in love with someone and then they break up with me, I'm wallowing in self-pity for at least 3 business days. Okay? Story-wise, I feel like this is a perfect track to follow. Please, please, please. Right? Because obviously in Please, 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 she's like, don't embarrass me, motherfucker. Right? And then she's saying, right, well, if you've chosen to commit to me now, right, and you're not gonna embarrass me, you're gonna want to stay in my good graces, because if you do embarrass me, motherfucker, I will be able to turn my feelings right off and you'll be dust. You'll be paid dust and you'll be nothing to me. Okay? So I love that. I love story-wise how those two kind of correlate. Letting him know, obviously, once again, because she obviously mentioned this also in Please, 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 that he is in fact replaceable. Funnily enough, Sabrina Carpenter is Abby Lee Miller reincarnated. Not that Abby Lee Miller's dead, but I do think the lyric, finish your chores prematurely, is craziness, right? Because I feel like she's kind of saying, like, she gets it when she wants it. Like, she can almost order him around like someone does with like a child to make a child do chores. Like, don't get me wrong, when I was a kid, I was put to work, right? My mum put me to work. Which, you know what? She had 4 kids. She essentially had 4 slaves, right? And she would delegate the chores accordingly. And I feel like that's kind of what she's saying here. She's just like, you finished your chores prematurely, because like she's like at the drop of a hat, she's like, okay, we're having sex now. You're doing me now. What? And obviously, like, premature ejaculation is a thing. You got to give it to her. She's consistent. She will call out the flaws in your penile region. Okay? The last part of this song that really kills me off is the bit where she talks about basically rebounding with this guy's favorite athlete, right? Love it already. Fun. But then she goes on to say, people, shoots his shot every night. So obviously, sports, football, basketball, literally any sport, to be honest, a lot of sports we could be shooting shots, right? But also coom, right? Once again, ejaculate. She is talking about this man splunking all over every night. And then I just closed off my notes with "bitch is horny." And guys, this is only the beginning. This is so horny, guys. This album is so horny. So I am going to be vulgar. If you didn't realize, I will be being vulgar this episode, and I think it's okay, because if you're here, you enjoy the album, you enjoy the horny, you get it. Okay, so I'll be horny and vulgar this episode, and YouTube, you're gonna like it. Okay, moving swiftly on, we've then got Sharpest Tool. Men Are Trash Part 1. It's very Casual by Chapel Roan. Chapel Rowan? I'm not sure, people say her fucking name wrong all the time, and I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm sorry. Chapel Rowan, Chapel Roan, not sure, right? It's very casual by Chapel vibes, okay? It's very much like, okay, so I met your family, we did all these, like, relationshipy things, and then suddenly you forget, and now it's like, what was that? Like, if that's casual, then I'm stupid, essentially. I will say, production-wise, for me, the very, like, punchy, but, like, subtly punchy chorus is the thing that keeps this one more in, like, a realm of something I'd enjoy. I think without the, like, subtle, punchy, kind of fast-paced chorus, I don't know if I'd like this one as much as I do. I will say, lyrically, slam dunk as usual, but for me, the production is I'm happy that the production is what it is, because if it was just kind of like mellow all the way through, I wouldn't like it as much as I do now, if that makes sense. The silence thing in the second chorus is so creative and so fun, and it's something I've never heard anyone do before, because obviously she's talking about how, like, this person maybe breaks the silence every so often just to kind of like keep us there, keep us like wondering what's going on, or like it's almost their way of like continually playing games. So like every so often they'll maybe like come back, chat a little bit, then dip again, and it's their way of just kind of like just keeping us there, right, and not allowing us to like fully forget their existence and whatnot. Another thing that got me kind of like on a tangent here in my brain was the part where she says, looking for an answer in between the lines. Now, this, like, once again, it got me going on a tangent because it obviously made me think of, like, reading back on, like, the texts from before and almost, like, trying to read in between the lines and see if there was, like, hints of something going amiss or hints of things happening that you're not catching at the time, but it kind of like explains why they're either distant or like their disappearance, right? And it made me think, like, I've literally done that. So like relatability was on 10 here, because I went on a date with this guy and we were talking for a while beforehand and we talked for a little bit after the fact, right? And he essentially ghosted me. I don't get ghosted that often, to be honest, because I don't talk to that many people, but it was like, it was like this level of ghosting, like when you're barely talking, not really going on dates and stuff, like, fair enough, ghost me, it's not that important, right? But I feel like when you've gone on a date with someone, the decent thing to do is at least tell them that you're not interested, right? So this guy just fucking aired me out of nowhere, right? And then I see him all the time in a shop that I go into, because it's like my favourite vintage shop, and he works in there, and every time I go in, guys, he makes a point of like coming up to me and like talking, actively making conversation. So I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, if I ghost someone, that means I don't want to talk to him anymore. Now, I understand maybe that's just him trying to like be friendly, because obviously like he does work in a shop, so maybe he's just trying to be like nice. But there was one time, guys, I literally went in, I had my AirPods in, noise cancelling and everything, right? I had my head down, went in, didn't find anything I liked, was walking back out, head down, earphones in, right? And he made a point of like, so he was waving, and I kind of saw, but I was like, I don't want to stop, because fuck this. So he was like waving, and then like stepped in front of me to stop me in my tracks, so we had to talk. But babes, you ghosted me. Do you know what I mean? So it just kind of reminded me of that kind of situation. Like, I do recall going back on our messages and being like, was there something that I said that was a bit off, or what? Like, it was just very, very fucking weird. So, yeah, overall, wild experience. But anyway, moving on, next track, Coincidence. Men Are Trash Part 2. Of course, right? I feel like at the very beginning of this track, it's kind of like a little callback to maybe the first track. Now, I'm not sure if like the situations are related at all, but she says she knew It's something about the girl putting her head on his chest, like she knew. She has a real sixth sense. And it's kind of like this idea that, like, all these girls that this man is getting in relationship with are almost connected psychically. Right? Right. I will say this one is not my favorite in terms of production. It's definitely lyrically super strong. Like, the lyrics are the thing that get me with this track. Okay. She obviously once again talks about this whole love triangle situation, which is obviously brought up a lot throughout this whole album, to be honest. I think that's the main theme of this whole album. And it's kind of how, like, Sabrina was almost the bridge between the relationship with this person or these two people and then them getting back together after Sabrina. And I can only imagine, if I'm putting the pieces together, maybe he, like, disappeared, left Sabrina on red, no real closure, and then just got straight back with his ex, which is so fucked. And if I'm gonna speculate here, right, because we're all friends here, I do see and I do imagine that this is about Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello. We all know Camila and Shawn were together, right? We all know they broke up. And then after that, there was pictures, paparazzi footage, shall we say, of Sabrina and Shawn hanging out, going to things together. So we can only assume that meant they were, like, dating or whatever. And then soon after that, it was reported that he got back with Camila. Obviously not sure if they're still together now or whether they broke up again, but we can infer that maybe they did break up again because Sabrina talks about it, if it is correct, okay? So in my brain, this one is probably the most clear to me that this is, like, the Shawn, Camila, her situation. This one kind of solidifies it, in my opinion. I spoke about this in my reaction, but I'm going to talk about it again because I do think it's a wild concept. And obviously she mentions you drive your car from LA to her thighs. And in my reaction, I obviously then, I did go on, like, a rant about how people claim that, like, cheating can, like, just happen. This is what cheaters say, right? Cheaters claim that it just happens and they weren't thinking straight and all this kind of thing. Like, they don't know how it ever happened to them, right? And in my mind, I call bullshit because, simply put, cheating and just the penetration is not the only it's not the only decision you have to make in these situations, right? Because like Sabrina's saying, you chose, it's choices, okay? You chose to drive your car from LA to her house, or AKA thighs, whatever. We're going to her thighs, we're getting sex on, right? But past that, you were probably texting, right? Decided to go to hers through text. That's one decision. You got in your car. If we're going to break this down, you open the door, you got in the car, you put your seatbelt on, right? Many choices were made, okay? Many choices that you could have been like, you know what, actually, no, I'm not going to do this. You then put her address in the GPS, potentially, unless you know where she lives, which, if she's your ex, then I guess you probably did know. Actively drove to her house, okay? You got out the car, probably shoved a condom in your wallet, hopefully, safe sex people, right? Got to the door, knocked on the door, she answers, you go in, you go upstairs, you kiss, you get undressed, you get in the bed, you penetrate, right? All those things there, they're all choices. So you can't tell me that you just happened upon her vagina and your cock just flopped right out. No, you're stupid and you're lying to yourself, okay? And then obviously she mentions at the very end, you broke up again. This is what it kind of makes me think of, like, the whole Shawn and Camila situation. And I have got to say, the way she sings that line, because I think she says, like, oh, wow, you broke up again, it's very Dolly. It's very Dolly Parton coded, and I love it, right? I love it. Like, I'm not a huge Dolly Parton fan. Obviously, she's an icon, but I don't really listen to her music. But I know for a fact I could play this song for my mum, who is a Dolly Parton fan, and she would love this song. Okay, it's so Dolly coded, okay? But anyway, that's coincidence. Moving on to Bed Chem. Oh my God, guys. Now, if we thought she was horny before, this is next level horn now, right? Men are trash, we know this, but they're also really sexy. Okay, so this one is for the horny bitches, right? So horny bitches, hands up. Okay, let's go. Everything about this song is perfect in my opinion. I want to get that out of the way. Everything about this song is absolutely perfect. Lyrically, vocally, the production, like the fucking twinkly, almost psychedelic production. I feel like not that this song feels like when you have sex, but like I do feel like it almost gives you kind of like the same energy, loosely. Like you're having sex, like maybe you're getting a little head rush, like it's getting a bit fun, frisky, things are moving fast, like like it's euphoric. That's the word I'm thinking of, right? It gives euphoric, kind of psychedelic vibes. Almost feels like we're on drugs. Not that I would know, I've never done a drug in my life, but I can only assume, okay, from what people talk about. The whole part in the fucking chorus, when we start the chorus, and she sings, "How you pick me up, pull 'em down, turn me round," bitch is getting back shots. Back shots. Right? Sabrina Carpenter is getting back shots. That's craziness. And if this is maybe about Barry, then you know what? Good for him. Right? Apparently he lays the pipe down real good. Good for him, man. Right? So vocally as well on that part, kills it. Kills it. The fucking falsetto is crazy. The riff back down is sickening. I just love it. The whole chorus, the whole track, to be honest. The best bit, however, and I think we're all going to agree on this, right? Shakespeare has risen. She sings, "Come right on me. I mean, camaraderie. Said you're not in my time zone, but you wanna be. Where art thou? Why not upon of me? See it in my mind. Let's fulfill the prophecy." If that's not lyrical genius, I don't know what is, people. Right? And I also want to say this. I don't think just anybody could do that lyric and make it work. Right? I feel like Sabrina has a flavor that is difficult to replicate. And I do think, right? Also with like Chapel Row, and I kind of see the same thing happening. I do think we're going to start seeing people trying to like emulate this fun, horny kind of style in the same way Sabrina does. And I don't think it's going to work as well, right? Like, I also think that like people are going to almost start resembling Chapel Rowan and like the fun kind of aesthetic that she's got going on, like almost pageant drag-esque kind of vibes. I do see like more theatricalness in music with Chapel Rowan. Now, if you guys would like me to do a little deep dive onto the rise and fall of a Midwest princess, let me know and I will do that. But I do see Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Rowan as like they're moving things in a slightly different direction, right? I feel like for a while, obviously, it's been Taylor Swift, of course. Billie Eilish, she was another one. I feel like Billie Eilish really changed things. She changed the course, right? And we saw a lot of people trying to emulate the Billie Eilish aesthetic kind of energy, right? I think we'll be starting to see that with like Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Rowan. This almost like fun, cutesy, but like humorous, gritty kind of aesthetic. Obviously, Chapel and Sabrina are very different, but I do think they're two examples of like a shift. But I don't know. I just think Sabrina is she's really capitalizing on the horn. But we'll speak about this more at the end when I go through my full thoughts. But anyway, this was one of the songs where it's just like I don't know if anyone else could do this song and make it work. Like the humor is integral to this song and her as an artist, I feel like at this point, right? Moving on, Espresso, guys, I'm not gonna dwell because realistically, what do I need to say? We know it's iconic, right? We know it's a banger. We know it's song of the summer, maybe song of the year. there's nothing I need to say to help you realize that. I feel like that's that me espresso, right? I think that's it. That's all that needs to be said. Okay, moving on, dumb and poetic. This is once again certain men are trash. So I guess part 3 to the men of trash portion, right? But certain men of trash in this track, but they're still trash. Okay, this one I feel like is the first proper mellow track, but it still has like the funny, hilarious, quirky lyric. Like, she's still dragging this man's ass, but in a more subtle, mellow, sweet way. Like, I feel like we're almost like doing this whole juxtaposition of like a soft, mellow production and a hard-hitting lyrical content, you know? I also do think this one wouldn't be my favourite if the lyrics weren't what they were. Like, for me, I gravitated to this song for the lyrics, not necessarily for the production. It's a bit more on the simple side. I'm just also not really in like a mellow, sad, mid-tempo time of my life. Like, I'm all here for the bangers, the bops, the cunty lyrics, the vibes, you know? Like, I don't need to be sad. I don't need any help getting myself sad, right? So for me, you'll see us as well, like, reflected in my rankings that, like, the bops, the bangers are kind of like where it's at for me personally with anything, with anyone's album, with anything at the moment, okay? This one kind of like reminded me of those kind of people that like appear a certain way online and they kind of have like an internet persona, which I guess I kind of do like on Instagram versus this. But obviously, like, these are both online. And I also just feel like Instagram is just like my imagery. Like, I'm not trying to put anything across that's not me. Like, it's still me, just maybe a bit more of a saucy kind of vibe, you know? But it reminded me of like these people that like preach health and wellness, like we're fitness influencers, we're health gurus, you know, we want everyone to be healthy, love each other. We preach like self-love, self-confidence, outward confidence, and outward love for the world. And then in their spare time, it's like, well, you're not treating people in your life as such. Like, you're in and out of relationships, you're fucking with people's emotions. So yeah, it's self-love for you and yours, I suppose, but no fucker else. But yet you'll say it online. Okay, it's acting, it's a performance, right? And that's why I love this one. She sings, "Save all your breath for your floor meditation." That for me, I think, is my favorite lyric of the whole track. Drag him, right? I think it's pretty simple. But also, like, we do close off with a little sprinkle of daddy issues, which is not a surprise. We had that on a track on Emails I Can't Send, the title track. She obviously alluded to maybe having a interesting time with her father. And I feel like this is once again just a little woo, little daddy issue sprinkle. Okay, moving on, Slim Pickins. Guys, I have never related to a song this much in my entire life. Okay, and that's a sad reality. Okay, I know this song deep in my bones. She wants the bare minimum at this point, right? She starts off by asking for, what was it? Someone who's like ripped and kind, I think she says. So, like, that's the ideal, right? We all want someone really fucking sexy, rippling pectorals, right? Huge bunda, or at least I do, okay? But also is really kind, respectful, and nice. Does it exist? We'll never fucking know, because I've not found it yet, right? So that's obviously what she starts off with. So I'm like, you know what? Fair enough. I see that. That's where my bar is at. That's what I want. I want someone hot, sexy, fly, ripped, and kind. Okay? Then we switch to the fucking second verse, or second chorus, I can't remember. And she's asking for someone who breathes. And did she just say nice? Nice and breathes? I think that might be what she said. Which, guys, that is the bare fucking minimum. That's the bottom of the barrel here. And we're still not finding them. Guys, it is Slim Pickins out here. She said it, and she said it correct. I've been single for 6+ years at this point, and I think I'm a catch. Like, I've got so much love to give, right? I'll never understand how I'm still single. But there's just nobody. There's just nobody. And obviously, there is an element of like, we all have needs, the needs must be met. And she obviously talks about how, like, this man doesn't know the difference between there, and they are, but yet is naked in my room. We're having sex because I need it, because I'm horny and I have needs. Okay? And this is why I said on Patreon, this album is like short and sweet, but AKA horny and alone. Right? That's my kind of short and sweet album, right? If I was to do this album, it would be horny and alone. Okay. And then finally, obviously, like the absolute slam dunk of a line that is "The Lord forgot my gay awakening." That is such an iconic way to end the track because realistically, I've said it and I'll say it again, lesbians have it figured out, I think. Now, I'm sure lesbianism is not without its like ups and downs, you know, tumultuous relationships, of course. But I just see lesbians as like the elite species. Right? I've said it. If I could be anything, I would be a lesbian. And clearly, Sabrina does agree with that statement. Okay. Next track, Juno. Another one, absolute banger. I was so intrigued about this one before we obviously heard it. Obviously, I've seen Juno, not seen it in years. But I was really intrigued as to what we were getting at here. And I think creativity-wise, this was such a creative and smart way of essentially just saying pretty simply that, like, if you treat me nice, if you're ripped, if you're kind, if you stick around, if you don't play with my emotions or play games, I will let you impregnate me. Okay, so if you if you tick all the boxes from the last track, so if you are those things that I'm looking for, I'll let you make me Juno. So smart. That is so fucking fun. I will say her bringing up the dad's willy, bit jarring, but I once again do live, right? I think she said something about like, God bless your dad's genetics. Big pipe, right? Wasn't there a song? I can't remember which song it is. Maybe it was this one. Maybe it was earlier in this track when she's like manifesting that he's got a big willy. Maybe it was like an earlier track. I'm not sure. I didn't note it down. But in one of the tracks, like she was manifesting that the guy had a big willy. So obviously the person that she is referencing here has a big willy, right? But you got to be sticking around and be nice, and then you can impregnate her. And I think that's a wonderful thing, you know? Once again, I think it's a great track to follow Slim Pickins. I think the two just go hand in hand. I do think this one is like probably one of the most classic bop pop bangers. You know, like it's not the most crazy in terms of like production. Like it's not like I'm sure we've heard similar things before, but I think this is just like a classic pop banger. And I also will say I think this one is gonna kill it on tour. I think this one's going to be a really fun one to sing along to on tour. And I'm going to the tour and I'm very excited. I will be going to the 13th of March date for Manchester. So if you're there, I would love to see you. But yeah. And then finally, last thing I do need to mention for this track, which I do think encapsulates this whole album, this whole era, and also me as a human, and that is I'm So Fucking Horny. I need that tattooed. I might get a tramp stamp of that. Because what do you mean? This is another one, though. I don't think anyone else could have done that lyric in that way. Like, so blunt, honest, cutting the bullshit and just saying it how it is. I don't know if anyone else could have put that in a song and made it work. But because it's her, and she's funny, and she's cutesy, it works. I'm so fucking horny. And the way she sings it, like, so angelic as well. Like, what do you mean? That is everything. Moving on. I've not got too much to say about the last two tracks. Lighter Girls, for me, very Gracie Abrams energy. Now, I have been listening to Gracie Abrams' new album more as of recent. and getting into that more, because there was a few tracks that I loved on initial listen, but I just never really returned to the album. So I've been listening to it more and more, and I stand by my statement. I think this song, very Gracie Abrams vibes, which I love. Definitely like the first proper sad real track, right? Not really any sort of humor here. It does have kind of like a spiciness about it. Obviously saying like, you don't have to lie to girls, because realistically, we'll lie to ourselves for you. Like, you don't have to do anything. You can sit down, do what you want, and realistically, we'll lie to ourselves and gaslight ourselves into thinking that everything's okay. You know, it's sad. I'm not a woman, so I can't really relate to this, although I have had instances where like there has been red flags and I've just like turned a blind eye. So I do think that is kind of like a universal experience, but obviously I don't want to impart myself here. But yeah, I think the build on this song is really cute. Like on the bridge, the build is great. I hate, guys, through listening to it more and more and more, I hate the transition to like Jack's instrumental towards the end. Like, it just doesn't seem like they transitioned it well enough. Like, it seems very abrupt, very like out of the blue, almost like, I don't know, like it feels jumpy. Like, it feels like they've just jumped to something else. Like, it doesn't seamlessly transition. Like, it needed a bit more of like a blend to it. Like, I think the two things, like the build into the instrumental, would work, but the way they done it, it breaks almost, if that makes sense. So I hate that. That's the only flaw that I found in this whole album, is that I don't like that. And I don't understand why that was kept as is. Who knows? But I'd be interested to hear your guys' thought on that. If you listen to the build into the transition, it just seems really weirdly abrupt. But anyway, moving on. Last track on the album, but I have got one other track to talk about because I do have the special vinyl with the other tracks. I thought I'd give you kind of like a lowdown on what the tea is with that one. But last track on the album, Don't Smile. It's very floaty. It's very ethereal. She sounds great. The vocal producing on this one, top tier. Especially in headphones, she sounds really angelic and gorgeous on this one, right? Really great track to finish on, I think. Obviously, she kind of took the concept of don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, right? That we've seen on fucking people have it tattooed, people have it on their walls. It's very live, laugh, love, I feel like. She kind of took that, flipped it on its head. Love that about it. Past that, there's not too much else. It's a bit more on the repetitive side, which I don't think is bad, because I think it is a nice ending to the album. She does keep a hold of, like, although this is like angelic and like ethereal, the lyrics are definitely still bitter and like petty all the way till the end. You know, I do like that we kind of like still ended it on like a bitter and petty note. And it's once again just like the kind of juxtaposition between the lyrics and the production, and I always love that. So yeah, that's the last track on the album. Last thing I want to talk about, needless to say, is the bonus track that you get on this vinyl. I will say, production wise, I don't want to spoil the track just in case you've not heard it, but production wise, it's very Dumb and Poetic kind of vibes. It's like more of a mellowy sound, and she's kind of saying lyrically, like it's kind of like a play on words, and she's essentially saying like he needs to say less, like he needs less to say, if that makes sense. So that's kind of lyrically where the energy is. But like I said, I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, it's a cute song. Definitely not my favorite. I can see why it was maybe kept off the original album. It does feel like tracks that we have on the album already. And yeah, overall thoughts, right? I will say I think we created a monster with the success of Nonsense. I feel like Nonsense was like the first track that obviously did really well, of course, but it was like the first song where like people actively showed love and support for her just being unhinged and horny. And I think it's specifically with like the outros and like the way she was able to like obviously keep switching them up every time she did like a live performance. I feel like she saw how we all loved it and thought, you know what? Let's capitalize. And I am so happy that she is, because I am here for this fun energy, okay? I will say I wanted to kind of like hit on the comparison that I have been seeing between this album and Emails I Can't Send, because I do think up to this point, taking this album out of the equation, I think Emails I Can't Send was kind of like well known as being maybe her best work yet, in my opinion anyway. I think it's her best work yet. And I've been seeing a lot of people kind of like compare the two, because I do think they're both extremely strong work. And for me, I don't really see them as like competition. For me, it's more like sister albums, because I feel like Emails I Can't Send was more sincere lyrically and more like meaningful lyrics with like hints of horny, hints of bops, hints of fun, right? Sprinkled in there, kind of all over, to be honest. But then I feel like this album is almost the complete opposite. It's like a lot of horny, a lot of fun, with sprinkles of more sincere, serious, sad, mellow vibes, right? So for me, they're almost sister albums and could easily be played back to back. And I don't think they'd sound too out of place, you know? Because both of them are like an eclectic sound. Both have a nice mix of vibes. Like, she's done like country stuff on the last album with like Lonesome and stuff. We've got fun bops, we've got sad songs. Same with this one. We've got country vibes, more classic vibes. We've got it all. So I feel like both albums could easily just be like interchanged and like almost put on shuffle. And I think it'd be a slay. But yeah, finally, last thing I want to do is quickly tell you guys my ranking, right? Now, this wasn't that hard. I'll say that. I will say there's 6 songs on the album that I feel like any given day I could probably like interchange at the top half, right? The rest was pretty easy. So let's go quickly through it. First, at 12, we've got Lighter Girls. Love the song. Can't relate to it all that much because I'm obviously not a girl. Love Women. It's not my favourite song on the album, but I wouldn't skip it. There's no skips, okay? Then 11, Don't Smile. Nice ending. Bit repetitive. We've definitely got songs with more substance and more of like a girthy, as it was, girthy lyrical content, if that makes sense. In at 10, Dumb and Poetic. I like the song. It's just not my favourite. Then 9, Slim Pickins. And then at 8, I did put Coincidence. But Slim Pickins and Coincidence, and Sharpest Tool, to be honest, because Sharpest Tool is at number 7. I feel like those 3, Slim Pickins, Coincidence, Sharpest Tool, all could be tied in my brain. But I didn't want to tie them just for the sake of the video. So yeah. And then these are the ones that realistically could just be interchanged. Like, there's no... For me, it's just like they're all top tier songs. Love them all, okay? We've got at 6, Please, Please, Please. At 5, Juno. At 4, Taste. At 3, Espresso. Because I almost did put Espresso further down, but I feel like the only reason why that would happen is because I've had it the longest, so it doesn't feel as fresh, you know? So I didn't want to let that cloud my judgment too much, because I do think Espresso is that bitch, okay? But then in at number 2, Good Graces. Number 1, Bed Chem. Guys, like I said, those top 6 could easily just be moved around. But yeah, this is going to be this episode. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the album and maybe your ranking down below. But yeah, let me know if you want me to do a similar thing for The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, because I think that'd be really fun. Because I do feel like soon we might get some more Chapel Rowan, so that's exciting. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next week or the week after with another episode. Goodbye!